What's up everyone, Vu of Vu Films, and I am back with another idiotic video for you to watch. And today I want to discuss how to do handheld footage using your Fujifilm X-T4. No, not the Fujifilm X-T3, because there's no IBIS in that. If you're using the same tips I'm about to tell you for that Fujifilm X-T4 on the X-T3, your footage would look shaky like a Shakira music video. And by shaky, I don't mean the camera movement. You know what I'm saying. But anyways, so to start, I would just show you a save the date video I did for a wedding couple a few days ago, all completely handheld using the Fujifilm X-T4 with a Sigma 18-35 f1.8 EF mount lens using the Finger Pro 2 adapter. As I said, completely handheld. Here it is.
It's always our running joke when we meet new people. So I always like to tell people that we met at church, but the true story is Vanessa and I met online.
Well, we met on a Bumble date.
So when Vanessa and I were chatting about meeting for our first date, she had asked me, hey, would you like to go for a date? And I said yes, and then she was kind of expecting to come to my part of town, when in reality I asked her, I said, hey, I'm more than willing to come to your side of town.
I thought it was interesting because he actually wanted to come to my neighborhood. So if you know DC, if you live in certain areas, people just generally don't come. But he came to my neighborhood, and we got dinner at a barbecue place. And when I first walked in, I remember thinking he was very handsome, even though he was shorter than me, and that's usually not my thing. But here we are.
Vanessa is very caring, and caring in a lot of different ways. She's caring about, first, her family and God, and she's also very caring about others around her, whether she's known you for an hour or she's known you for her entire life. She's very caring, and she's also very passionate about what she does. So she never gets into anything or does anything in her life that she's not passionate about.
He's very thoughtful, loves his family a lot, will do a lot for them. He's very responsible, which I appreciate. And he's just very caring. So honestly, when Joe and I first met, my mom has actually recently passed away, and instead of saying like, oh, this is kind of a lot of emotions happening here, he said, maybe I can just be someone who makes her smile and laugh every once in a while.
So this is the setup here. This is a setup that I use. It's the Fujifilm X-T4 Sigma 18-35 f1.8 for EF mount. And, obviously there's a cage, and, you're going to probably say this is not handheld. It is. I mean, there's not a gimbal. It's just like a rig I'm using to have a handle and to be able to, some weight on it. So that's one of my first tips, is just to make sure you're using a heavier setup. If you're using like a smaller lens, I don't know, like one of like the Fujifilm small f2 lenses, you might have a problem, especially for walking shots, because there's nothing to help hold the weight down. So when you're walking, and if there's a shake, the lighter the setup is going to have more upwards of a bounce or shake, versus with something heavier, the weight holds it down, aka gravity, and it minimizes the amount it goes up and down. So that's one. 2, don't be going out there wearing an old Vietnamese flip-flop to walk and do your shoots. This includes doing gimbal work, any type of work where you were trying to get the most stability out of your camera. Just don't wear a Vietnamese flip-flop, shoes that are flat-soled, dress shoes or something like that. You want to wear something like sneakers, running shoes, something that has an arch, a heel, so you can do more heel-toe walking, keeping your knees bent to help absorb the shake from the camera. It's just basic techniques. Now, with the Fujifilm X-T4, the IBIS is quite strong. It is not as strong as like a GH5, but I've noticed if you with proper walking, proper technique, it minimizes shake, so it looks more like the shake from any cinema camera. You know, if you watch a movie, any movie, you notice that all the shots aren't like gimbal stable. You know, you see some shake, and that, you know, there's some tolerable shake, some shake that helps tell the story, develop that narrative. And then there's some shake that's just completely disgusting. So you just got to make sure there's a fine line between acceptable shakiness and too much shakiness. So another tip that I would suggest is just shoot with any Sony camera, like before the Sony a7S III, and you learn to get a steady hand quickly, because the IBIS in those Sony cameras are pretty bad. So if you could shoot stable footage with the Sony any of those Sony Alpha cameras before the Sony a7S III with that active stabilization, more power to you. But other than that, I mean, there's techniques such as, like, for example, when I was doing the interview footage, I was just holding the camera like this. I was looking at the screen, elbows tight, and just not, moving my feet at all. I was just kind of like moving my hips slowly back and forth, just to like mimic a little bit of movement, but not too much. And the footage looked pretty stable. It didn't look like it was like a handheld shake or something. It definitely didn't look like tripod, but that's not what the look I was going for. And I think it turned out great. Other tips is obviously and of course, final tip is just, I recommend you getting a rig like this. Not only that it gives you more weight to your camera, you get this handle here that is actually a quick release. There's actually a quick release handle. So you could take this out really fast. Then you could freely just mount it onto a gimbal, as is. And then you could just put this back on really quickly and go back onto your handheld way. And the reason why this is cool is because you can mount monitors to these cold shoe mounts here. You can mount all different kinds of stuff here, whatever it is you want, but it gives you a handle, which kind of mimics the way cinema cameras are, FX9, Canon, C2, 3, 500, trash, color science, whatever the heck Canon you want to get. But you hold it like this, and it helps keep the weight down. So you kind of just let the weight dangle down like a set of nuts, and you just film it like this. When you're walking, just make sure you walk properly and holding it, keep your elbows tight, and just letting the weight hold the camera down to minimize that shake. Yes, this seems like very basic advice for handheld footage. It's nothing new, but I'm just trying to show you, for this camera specifically, these techniques work pretty well with IBIS. This is a standard Fujifilm IBIS. There's no like lens stabilization, so it's just IBIS. There's no like digital, it's just regular IBIS. And I think it worked pretty good. So I think I could tell you with confidence, if you're a Fujifilm X-T4 shooter and you want to film things like, I don't know, wedding videos, the save the date type stuff, or any type of documentary footage, handheld, I think it is doable and it is okay. You know what I mean? Like it's going to look good. It's going to look, it's going to have that proper amount of shakiness, proper amount of stability to, make the film look professional, make any camera shake look purposeful and not like horrible. And one other final tip I have is I found that I am a lot more stable of a handheld walking backwards. So obviously you can't walk backwards like all the freaking time. But let's say you were shooting something that there's no other motion. There's no other motion in it other than your motion, other than you walking. I would, if you're trying to do a push-in shot, I would just walk backwards, and then in post, I would just reverse it, because for some reason when I walk backwards, it just looks a lot better than when I'm walking forwards. So there's ways. That's another way that, you know, if you're just trying to do like a solid push-in shot and there's nothing else in view that could tell the viewer that you reverse the footage, I would just recommend walking backwards and then reversing the clip in post. And that should look more stable than walking forwards. That's just me. I don't know if everyone else is the same way. But yeah, I hope this video was informative. I know it was kind of just random, but you know, I just want to put it out there. The film was shot in F-Log. I use Eternal LUT. I custom graded the Eternal LUT a little bit to my liking, added contrast, etc. But other than that, very satisfied with what the Fujifilm X-T4 can do in a run and gun situation handheld. Till next time, guys, line up.